What's up, everybody? This is J&A, exposing corruption at its finest with Sunline Transit Agency. I'm Joey.
And I'm Anthony.
And we are protected under the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and Labor Code 6310, the Whistleblower Act Labor Code.
Welcome to the second part series. Employee X will be joining us momentarily, and we're waiting on her.
All right. She has got a wealth of information.
And we'll welcome her.
Well, hold on, let me get.
And then, I welcome Employee X with a wealth of knowledge to exposing corruption at its finest at Sunline Transit. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. In the last video, I said that I would speak about Sunline's culture. So let's talk about a toxic work environment. Some
Okay.
red flags for a toxic work environment are turnover, people leaving the job or being laid off or fired. There may be cliques, exclusions, or people being excluded, and gossipy behavior, something that Cecilia talked about in her video. Poor communication, bad leadership. It could be micromanaging boss who constantly corrects you, undermines your decisions, and disallows you from doing your job. Or you can have a gut feeling that can be triggered by a toxic workplace. By this, I mean your anxiety is through the roof. You may feel like you're experiencing discrimination or your health is suffering. All of this on a regular basis. I mention all of these because these are what was and what sounds like what still is present at Sunline. So here comes the first sign. In June 2017, I was officially offered the position of Deputy Chief Administrative Officer and accepted the position. As the Chief Administrative Officer position was vacant, I reported directly to Lauren. In October 2017, I was asked to attend the CALAC conference in Riverside. Lauren communicated that it was a privilege to attend any conference. I attended the conference and started to notice things that didn't feel right with me. I felt like I was being singled out at every opportunity. When we finished listening to the keynote speaker on the first day of the conference, she proceeded to tell me that I needed to take notes, that I wasn't just here to observe, and that I needed to take back what I learned and implement some of those things at Sunline. The tone in which this was said made me feel as if I hadn't done enough. I'll add that I had already implemented a lot of change in my department. I was responsible for human resources, information technology, customer service, and the planning departments, all under the administrative umbrella. I wasn't a chief, I was a deputy chief. I'll add that most of the chiefs had only one department to monitor while I had 4. Upon accepting the position as deputy, I assumed that I would have a CEO, which I could get some guidance from should I encounter a situation in which I wasn't familiar. I had never run an HR department, an IT department, or a planning department. I was vastly familiar with customer service, though. Lauren made it very clear in the beginning when I initiated a phone call to her while she was away at an APTA conference in September 2017, that she expected me to make decisions and that I shouldn't be calling her. I don't even remember exactly what it was I was calling to ask her about. I know that I needed some guidance, but I thought as a leader, she would be willing to give me some guidance and mentor me in my leadership role. After that phone call, I didn't bother calling her again for questions. So back to the conference. On the last day of the CALAC conference, the keynote speaker was one of the first women pilots in the Air Force. After she completed her speech to close out the conference, Lauren looked directly at me, and then Luis Garcia, the Deputy Chief Financial Officer at the time, and told us that is what she needed at the agency. She needed people that were going to lead teams in a similar manner, and that she expected that we would buy this woman's book, the former Air Force pilot, because she was selling her book there, so that we could put some of her leadership skills into practice. Again, tone plays a big part of this and the way in which it was said. I also felt as if I was left no choice but to buy the book that I didn't want. That was sign number one. Sign number two. There was a lot going on at the agency regarding funding. Sunline relies on state and federal funding to provide transit service to the public. At the time, we were considering cutting back on service for budgetary purposes. I had several opportunities to meet with the executive team and Lauren, who was specific on what she wanted done. It was unfortunate that while we were having meetings in August and September, most of what was needed to be done couldn't be achieved because the planning department, upon evaluation, didn't have enough people for the workload. I told Lauren that I had an opportunity to talk to an operator and that he knew the bus system. He was a person I needed on my team because he had passion around the service, and he wanted to correct any issues with run times and serve the public as much as we could. Those that were currently working on the system hadn't driven any of the routes before and were working from what they thought would work on paper. After posting for the new position in the planning department, I ended up hiring the operator, but I think in doing so, I really made Tommy Edwards upset. We were all brought into the conference room in which Lauren supported my decision to bring the operator into the planning department. Tommy felt that I wasn't being truthful in the way in which he was acquired and that I had specifically created a position for which the operator would qualify. I told Tommy in the meeting that I had made no secret of the fact that I would love to have the operator on my team as he would be an asset. He then didn't say anything further, and Lauren basically told the team that we needed to move quickly with things, especially regarding the planning department, since there was going to be big changes in the system. Lauren said that sometimes change required fast movement and that if anyone didn't like it, then they would need to rethink their position. From that point forward, whenever I went into a meeting and suggested changes or new ways of doing things, Tommy would object to everything I brought forward. I remember one specific instance when I was proposing changing the way we hire drivers. Specifically, I wanted us to hire for customer service rather than look for just driving experience. Tommy about blew up. He did not agree at all. I'd like to think I had a good working relationship with Pete Greger. In this instance, he happened to agree with my idea. I thought Tommy was going to have a coronary attack, honestly. He ended up telling the entire team he was done and he walked out. At the time, I was the only woman that was on the executive team besides Lauren. The chiefs met on their own to discuss decisions and projects for the agency. I'd say about 80 to 90% of the time, Lauren wasn't in those meetings. She expected the chiefs to work through any ideas and any decisions. And when I say I felt singled out, it was very real. I started to feel as if I was being picked on because I was female. Yes, the other chiefs faced challenges trying to move forward with projects and decisions, but I can say that Tommy never blew up at them, at least not when I was there. Yet in every meeting, I felt like my voice kept getting more quiet as time went on, or I would try to work around him if I could. After months of working like this, I had a one-on-one meeting with Lauren, and she proceeded to tell me that she was being told by Tommy that I was being objectionable in chiefs meetings to anything he brought up. He was basically telling her that if he brought up something regarding changes or ideas, that I would immediately object to his changes or ideas. I think I was silent for a moment, but then I told her it was exactly the opposite of what was occurring in the chiefs meetings. I told her that when I brought up ideas or changes, Tommy would object to everything or try to shut it down. Lauren told me that I needed to make the working relationship with Tommy work. She said that Tommy sometimes argues, but with her, but at the end of the day, they'll come to an understanding. She also told me that he gets the job done, which is why she needed to keep him on. I told her I would work on my relationship with Tommy. When I left the office, I felt very strongly that I wasn't the one being objectionable, but who knows, maybe my perception was off. So I went to my colleagues to see if my perception was off. I first talked to Pete Greger and I asked him if he felt I was objectionable in Chiefs meetings. He immediately said no. Why did someone tell you that? And I told him that Lauren had told me that Tommy had told her that I was objectionable in those meetings. Pete then went on to say that it was quite the opposite and that he was really surprised. I asked Pete if he would observe me in meetings going forward and if he could let me know if he thought I was being objectionable, and he agreed. I also went to Luis Garcia and asked him the same question, to which he answered no. And in fact, he went on to say that most of the time we can't get anything done because Tommy will disagree or hold things up. We were expected to make decisions as a team, yet most of the time we were paralyzed by two people, Tommy and Rudy LaFleur. I asked Luis if he would let me know if he saw any objectionable behavior from me, if he could please let me know, and he agreed. So I know you're probably dying to hear more, but that's it for now. So please share this on your social media, send it to your board members so that change can be made. And stay tuned for next time when I talk about nepotism. That's all I have.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing part 2 of a series that's many more to come, exposing Sunline Transit and the hidden secrets inside the White House at Sunline Transit. Thank you.
You're welcome.